Thank you, sir, for giving me this opportunity to speak on the appropriation bills number 4 and 5. Sir, through these bills, approval of the parliament is sought for an amount of rupees 4,35,938 crores as additional expenditure. It's a big amount. Out of this amount, rupees 3,25,000 crores is only for revenue expenditure. So the moot question that arises is how come there was so much error in planning? I would like to know from the Honorable Finance Minister, was it devoid of any priorities or was there any misplaced focus when the monies were allocated? Whatever it is or whatever it may be, it definitely indicates a gross miscalculation of expended expenditure. Sir, I would like to definitely request the Honorable Finance Minister to respond on the points which I am highlighting today. Sir, if we look at the Manrega scheme, the allocation that was done seems to have been underallocated because the demand of Manrega still is there. It was during COVID times and post-COVID times also it continues. So this scheme, which was brought in by the UPA government, is one of the best schemes for rural employment in the world. It is rated as such. It provides employment to unemployed people in the rural areas for unskilled or skilled labor. And the important part is that women get employment. This scheme that was brought during the UPA time, along with other acts that were brought, the Food Security Act and the Right to Education and other empowering right-based act, have lifted almost 23 crores of people, 27 crores of people out of the poverty, below poverty line. They moved to the middle class, sir. But if we look at what has happened to the current situation, 23 crores have been pushed below the poverty line. It is very difficult to understand why these schemes have failed. Are they because of non-allocation of proper funds, or whether it is non-implementation of these schemes, or what has happened along the way? But today when we are here to see that the appropriation bill get the desired supplementary allocation of funds, I am just here to show that the government has continually grossly undermined or underestimated the importance of Manrega, sir. Today also at the rural level, we have not recovered from the pandemic. If you look at the workforce, women who have lost their jobs, I also find it from the data of the corporate sector that it has become difficult for women to enter the workforce or re-enter the workforce in comparison to men. So this is also happening in Manrega sector. Madam Minister, I would just like to see that you give a little importance on this women aspect or gender budgeting as far as Manrega is concerned, and also look at the workforce for re-entry of women into the force. It is very difficult to see the data because I do not want to quote any studies today or bring out data, but the fact remains that the women who lost their jobs also face domestic violence within the domestic spheres, and they could not get whatever help they could by way of counseling or by way of economic help or by way of other kind of for example, by way of food security. I think there has been some kind of mismanagement at a certain level. But this is what has happened along with Manrega and gender budgeting too. So this aspect, I think, the Honorable Minister, I would like to know, Madam, from some response to that. Sir, this because of this particular funds not having been given to Manrega, the current levels of demand due to this continued distress in rural India continues. And this requires more funds. And so I think more funds should be allocated to Manrega. Here I would like to emphasize what Manrega actually is and why this fund crisis is creating so much problem. That this scheme was launched by the Congress-led UPA government in 2006, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, and it came to the rescue of Indian citizens who were left stranded by the sudden imposition of the unplanned COVID-19 lockdown and whose incomes have been hit by the ill-conceived economic policies of the present government. Instead of enhancing its implementation amidst the pandemic, the government has pushed this lifeline for rural India into a crisis. Ma'am, I do not want to go into the details and the data, but it is a sincere request that in order to see that these women get empowered at the rural level, Manrega needs a boost. Manrega needs more allocation of funds, and this will have to be planned, and it will have to be planned properly. With the economic slowdown that hit India even before the pandemic and the subsequent COVID-19 induced lockdowns, wiping out jobs, there has been a sharp increase in the number of people dependent on Manrega. Madam, I would like to tell you that it is estimated that out of 6.77 crore people who demanded work under Manrega this year or the last year there, 5.87 crore got employment, leaving an unmet demand of 89.7 lakh or 13.25%. There have been papers and research papers and analysis and data analysis that even as the government failed to provide employment to all those in need, it also failed to give them employment allowance as mandated by the NREGA scheme. Ma'am, this is a fact which needs to be taken into consideration positively and in a constructive way, that there should be also some kind of an unemployment allowance that has been mandated by the Act to be taken into consideration. Sir, my important other point is on food security. Ma'am, the National Food Security Act was brought in 2013. Today, as we look at the Global Hunger Index 2022, India is ranking 107 out of 121 countries with child wasting rate at 19.3% being the highest in the world. This is very serious, sir. Child wasting, child stunting, the malnourished children, they form a significant component of our society. And there are solutions. I'm sure the government knows what investments are required, but there seems to be a problem of policy implementation and lack of political will. Sir, Honorable Member of Parliament Shri P. Chidambaram ji had earlier asked the pertinent question to the present government: when will the Honorable Prime Minister address real issues like malnutrition, hunger and stunting, and wasting among children? 22.4 crore people in India are considered undernourished. We are all waiting for that answer till today. Sir, we are forgetting our children. Children who are malnourished, who are wanting proper nourishment, and that is why this Food Security Act of 2013 was brought in. We should not forget that the distribution of food grains, which is continuously referred to, that 80 crores of people have been given 5 kilograms of food, has come under the center's Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana, which provides these 5 kilograms of food, and that is free of cost per month to 80 crore beneficiaries. Today, sir, I do not also want to go into the issue of who are these beneficiaries. The beneficiaries terminology is given in this particular act. There also there is a component of women empowerment, because the head of the family should be woman, she should be having a ration card, and that is how these grains are distributed. But these beneficiaries which are listed on the portal are as per the 2011 census. Thereafter, there has not been any census conducted. And so I would also like to uh, request the Honorable Finance Minister that are these portals giving the right number, right data? Where is this 80 crores people data coming from? So whether there is going to be another data, there is going to be a census, and whether there is going to be the list of these beneficiaries who have got these 5 kilograms. And let's not forget, this is again because of the act that the UPA government brought. So this is the second scheme that the UPA government brought to lift out people from below the poverty line to some good income level. So the third point which I would like to bring to the notice of the Honorable Finance Minister is that when we talk about the allocation of funds, sir, this 5 kilogram of food grains to 80 crore people somehow, I think, has not been able to lift us from the below poverty line, and that I think needs to be taken care of, whether the allocation of funds happens or doesn't happen. But when we are talking about a supplementary allocation of funds, I think these priority areas or these areas which need focus for the economy to be boosted, to see that the country, our nation, India, stands out, this needs to be taken care of. Now, sir, coming to the third point, which is very important, again, for the growth of our country's economy, is the MSME sector. The time and again we hear 6.3 crores of medium, small, and micro industrial units. It employs 11 crores of people. But where are those 11 crores of people getting employment? Where are these units? We hear the ministers and we hear the FICCI and ASSOCHAM and CII industrial clusters speaking about industries, but these are big industries. We are talking of small industries in the MSME sector. Were they allocated the right funds? We have the portals to these people in the cooperatives, in the collectives, the women collectives, at the village level, at the rural level, where they are coming out with small clusters. Are they getting to the banks, to the credit facilities, to these portals? Do they have the digital platforms? Do they have the awareness? Sir, this is the MSME sector we are talking about, and this MSME sector needs immediate attention and allocation of funds. This priority or this focus has been missed, I think, by the Honorable Finance Minister. I would urge her, I would request her to respond on this very important point, because this MSME sector is the backbone of India's economy, and it will be broken, it will not come up to the mark unless and until incentives that are meant for these people, the portals that are made, number of portals are made, but where is that digital platform? Where is that access to these digital platforms? Where is the awareness among these people that yes, here I qualify to be an MSME unit. Here we are 8 women collecting together to form a collective. We want to go for a micro industrial unit. How does she know about it? How are these portals working? So are these allocation of funds focused? Are they having any priority? What are these funds doing then? And that is the moot question, I think. Supplementary funds can be allotted. The House will not have any issue on that. But I would like to know, okay, where are these focus, where are these priorities lying? So women again is a part of MSME, and again she has to go to the banks. From the data we get, the credit facilities, it's very difficult for her to access the banks, to go to the banks, to get that funds, to know how to go about with that funds, the wherewithal, the understanding, the awareness, and how to train them ultimately, whether there are procurement issues from the industry where there's a percentage count that women can go and get this procurement. Where are these wherewithals? How do the women of this country know about them? So the third point is gender budgeting. And gender budgeting also includes violence against women, taking care of that particular point. Women were pushed into the domestic spheres because of COVID. The COVID phase has been over now. But those women who were pushed into those domestic spheres, the data shows that the women suffered domestic violence. There was no way they could get help from the helpline numbers. They are again in abundance. They couldn't reach counseling centers. They couldn't have economic independence. They couldn't get any help from family because there was isolation processes going on. Sir, this gender budgeting was meant At that time, I remember very clearly to see that honorable finance ministers resolved that the women should be there as part of the development, general development of economy in the country. But I think it has failed in a sense. The crime record shows that there was 30% rise in these kind of crimes, the kidnapping, abduction. I don't want to go to the crime records right now or the data of that, but women need this gender budgeting. The allocation has to be multifold, not double. It has to be multifold because they are connected to education. Now, if you look at the education of women, there have been a very, very strong data on dropout of girl children. Safety and security being the main reason why the girls are not sent to far off schools. The second thing is we brought the Right to Education Act, again a very, very third laudable scheme and act of the UPA government, which lifted the women out of that undereducated societal strata to come to our empowerment, educational empowerment. Education gives an empowerment, and these women, you find them at every level. The fourth aspect, which is coupled with this particular aspect, is that political empowerment, which I think Rajiv Gandhi did his best to bring at the local panchayat level. And it has fructified today that we have got more than 1 lakh women sarpanches in the country in the last 2.5 decades. But that political empowerment alone will not happen unless you have allocation of funds for women, for women's education, for women's empowerment. Then another thing where gender budgeting is concerned is that when we want the women to have their children study online, post-COVID, we want women to study. We want women to stand out and take decisions. And we all the time, I hear democracy, participatory democracy, but you don't want women in decision-making positions. Unless and until you give them the education, they will not be able to empower themselves or take part in decision-making processes in a participatory democracy like India. This gender budgeting will go a long way, Madam Minister. Please see that this allocation is multifold. We want women at all the levels in the workforce, whether it is political empowerment, whether it is education empowerment, or whether it is digital empowerment, because we continuously hear that we want digital India, we want make in India. So the earlier point where I was talking about MSME sector, where women collectives want empowerment, that is where make in India also comes into the picture. How are women going to do anything where they want to participate in make in India if they do not have the funds, if they do not know the wherewithal, they do not have that education, or they do not have that awareness? And the second thing where you need this empowerment in order to make them safe, so these funds need to bring women empowerment, and gender budgeting needs more allocation. I think it should have been prioritized, focused, and should have been a major concern in order to see that India becomes an empowered nation. So a fifth point I want to talk about is digital India. Everywhere there are portals. You take MSME sector, it is Udyam portal, Sambandh portal, Sage portal for senior citizens. I just discovered senior citizens who are not able to go for a proper employment. For them also there is a portal. Portals everywhere. But where is the digital access? Who is giving the digital access and to whom? The children who get online education, they find pornographic sites pop up. Where is cyber security? So where are the funds allocated going to if they are not for educating children, educating women, educating and empowering women? These are the issues that the funds need to be used for, and that is why I want this gender budgeting and education budgeting to be multifold. And so if this supplementary expenditure which has happened and which has not taken this into account needs to be taken into account. So last and the most important point is that it was very sad for me, just one point, sir, very sad for me to learn from the data that 32 million Indian children have never been to any school. So this is a topic that touches my heart all the time. I find members of parliament shouting and taking all kinds of digs and bits at previous governments. But these three acts which I've talked about are by the UPA government, the education part, the food security part, and the employment part. And yet, despite all this, our children are not being able to go to primary school. What is that which is holding them back in not seeing that the Anganwadis are furnished, there are more children, more facilities? I think this last point I would like to urge to the Honorable Minister that kindly look into this fund allocation and see that our children, they are the future of the country. If they are not educated, then I think this Make in India, Digital India, Go to India, Do this India will not work, sir. It has to be the children who have to be given education and they have to be empowered.
There is one more
Thank you
speaker.
very much, sir.
Shri